Hello, Alan. So we are here in Landguet Ried. We've just completed the training, the Cultivating Emotional Balance teacher training for 5 weeks. We know this is your last training. What are your feelings about that?
This will be the 9th one that I've taught. The first time was in 2010. And it was really saving the best for last. I think in actually every way. I've now taught it 9 times, so in terms of what I could offer, I think this is the best I've been able to offer. I heard reviews from the students here about what Eve was able to offer. They thought she was superb. So I think from our side, we offered our best. And then in terms of secondly, the people who were here, they were from Turkey, from India, from Argentina and Brazil, from Australia, all over the world. And they were a remarkably interested, engaged group with very good questions, a lot of interest. And 3 generations. We had people in their 20s and 30s, 40s and 50s, 60s and 70s. And it was just about even in terms of men and women. And then finally, of course, then the facility itself was lovely, and the staff, the food. Even you were very courteous to arrange very nice weather also, like we have right now. It's been really idyllic. And so I'm really quite content to go out on that note, because I'll turn to other things, more time for retreat for myself, but also turning to our project in Tuscany to create a long-term retreat center. So I'm very content now, as I'm getting a bit older, to turn this teaching over to the next generation. So there's a young man who is very good friends with Eve. He's a very good teacher of CEBTT. So I think the two of them will team up from now on, at least for the foreseeable future. But this was just a very lovely, in every way, a very lovely way to bring a 9-year teaching sequence to its culmination. And I'm very happy now to set it down and move on to other things.
Great, thank you. So you were, of course, there are many factors which are necessary to make such a training a success. And you were also talking about the place and the facility. What do you think is necessary that is within that facility, so that it's the good or the perfect, let's say, container for such an experience?
Sure. Well, the facility, the region itself, of course, as you very well know, is very peaceful, very serene, and having the cows and the horses here, very pastoral, very pastoral. And so the environment itself is very soothing. It's also quiet. And so for my portion, the last 3 weeks of this 5-week training, it is a contemplative retreat. And so we are generally maintaining silence, not strictly so, because I encourage people to engage in meaningful conversation, but not just chit-chat. And so we had generally the meals were in silence. But that was always honored by your cooking staff. They were so helpful in every way. And so having just generally the surrounding environment, very serene and lovely, classic Swiss countryside. And then facility here also just very conducive to meditation and then to the teaching itself. So those kind of things. I mean, good and healthy food, quiet surroundings, helpful staff. And I think I didn't see any disharmony at any time among our people, among the 50 people who attended, let alone with your staff. And so I think that's very important, that we treat each other with courtesy and respect. And as far as I saw, that was uniformly the case. So that's actually most important for me, is that there's harmony within the group and harmony with the people that are serving us, that we also show that same courtesy and respect to others. I think that happened. So then it doesn't get better.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I would like to know, what is your wish for the future?
To attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. So I've been teaching a lot, and I'll be gradually teaching less and less to spend more time in retreat. But that was one thing I also appreciated, because I know in leading a retreat like this, 6 days a week, 6 hours a day is quite a bit. But then I was able to meditate on the average about 9 hours a day. So when I can do that, then I know every time I'm with the group, I'm always offering my best. It's always coming out of meditation. When I finish with them, I'm going back to meditation. So I know for myself that if I'm just teaching all the time, then I get a bit tired and maybe some enthusiasm decreases. But if I'm always going back to meditation, coming out of meditation, then that doesn't happen. And so there's always a freshness in the teaching, and people sense that, and of course their responses are fresh. They've never heard this material before. So for myself, I think I would say I'm not quite old, but I'm definitely getting old. And so, but vitality, health is still very good. And so I would really like to be spending more time in retreat. And then I think a major thing that is not very common in this modern era is opportunity to go into long-term retreat, like a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, to really try to follow in the footsteps of the great yogis of Tibet, and before them the great siddhas of India. And for that we need a conducive environment, we need to have availability of teachers, we need to have structures, facilities, and so forth. So that's the last major project I would really like to focus on, that I can envision at this time, for this lifetime, because I think it's very rare. And although there are many tantric retreats, one month retreat, 3-month retreat, 3-year retreats, but it seems, as far as I can tell, both in Asia as well as the rest of the world, not just the West, there are very, very few facilities that offer the opportunity to engage in long-term, very professional kind of training, to actually practice and achieve shamatha, practice and achieve vipassana. And then for those who are drawn, as I am, then following the path of Mahamudra or Dzogchen, and try to go as far along that path as we can, as close as possible, to actually achieving rainbow body. So that's the aspiration.
And what is any wish for these people that were just here with us? They go back to the countries, as you said, all over the world, to all the continents, the 5 continents actually, which is really made up the 4.
Yeah.
What is your wish, or which kind of message would you give them now? What is your wish for these people?
I think
for the training, for the CEBTT?
Yeah, I think they know my wish because I was quite clear about it. And the first aspiration or wish for them is that they themselves really get benefit from what Eve shared with them, what I shared with them. Because if they don't get benefit, then there's no reason to teach anybody else, you know? And so first of all, with the various practices that I was teaching, shamatha to make the mind serviceable, and then foundational vipassana practice, the 4 applications of mindfulness, which are common to Southeast Asian Buddhism, South Asian Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. We focus on that, and then the 4 immeasurables. That all of these practices, you can really see for yourself the benefit. It's not just future life, but you can really see the benefit in this lifetime. And both when you're in a retreat, but also when you come out and you're engaging with society. So my aspiration would be that they continue practicing, they go deeper in practice. All of them, without exception, will be certified to teach, but to be fully qualified, then they really need to continue practicing. And they can study more, gain more conceptual understanding, but most importantly, go into the experiential through their practice. And insofar as they really derive benefit for themselves, their understanding becomes clearer and deeper, then they will be in a position to be of greater and greater benefit to other people as they teach CEB. And there was a lot of enthusiasm. I think most of the people in this one, they were very keen on teaching CEB. Sometimes people just come for the training for their own benefit, which is fine. But this time, I think most of them, quite clearly, really wanted to bring this out into the world and start brainstorming also how could we take this basic training, which I know the core is very good, and be adapting that, for example, for the elderly, for people really old, like 80s and 90s, adapting it for children, adapting it for people in the medical profession, adapting it to education itself, and then also to athletics, because cultivating one's attention skills, mindfulness, emotional balance, this is important for every sport, every branch of athletics as well. And athletics can be really dharma as well if one brings good sportsmanship. You know, not just me, but a sense of kind of joy to engage in the sport and really doing one's best and really trying to please the people who are coming and really show very good sportsmanship. And so all of these can help a lot in that regard. And in terms of the attention and emotional balance, it will of course make you also a better athlete. So there was a lot of interest in that. So as these people, again, older people, younger people, as many of them still quite young, still getting education, if they adapt this training with my encouragement to make it for more specific groups, you know, then it can mutate. So we have one kind of core species, but then that can mutate for the elderly, for children, for the business world, for medical world, education, athletics, and so on. And in that way, I think the greatest benefit can come for them, but also for people they serve.
Thank you. Anything you would like to say?
Oh, Vielen Dank. It was really, really wonderful being here. So thank you both for your very gracious role as our hosts.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.